After days of basking in the sun and vegging out on the gorgeous Spuha beach, my family and I decided that we were ready to go out and do some exploring. At the top of our list is the archaeological site of Tulum. After we researched group tours, which were priced at about $100 per person, and since we were a party of 4, we thought that over $400 was really expensive for what you get. After all, Tulum is only a half-hour car ride from our hotel. So, we decided to hire a taxi and go out on our own. This video gives you some insights about the archaeological site itself, but also details how much we ended up paying, plus all the mistakes we made during our excursion there, how you can avoid them, and reveals if it's even worth it to go at all. First things first, let's talk money, baby. The taxi ride there and back from our hotel cost about $100 US. The same driver waited for us the entire time and drove us back to our hotel. The entry to the site, and this is where things start to add up. Not only do you have to pay to enter the Parque del Jaguar, which is the park surrounding the site, but you have to pay a fee to the Mexican government and an additional fee to enter the archaeological zone where the ruins are. The total cost to be able to get to the ruins was 570 Mexican pesos, or about $28 per person. These prices are for foreigners. If you're a Mexican national, entry fees are a lot cheaper. Once you enter the archaeological zone, you have the option to hire a private guide for an additional fee of 1,300 Mexican pesos, or $65 for the entire group. Unfortunately, when we arrived, there were no more guides available, which was super disappointing, so we ended up exploring on our own. Now, let's take a look at the totals here. If we had taken a group tour, we would have paid about $400, and we ended up only paying $212 total for 4 people. So all in all, we saved 50% as a group of 4. But if you're solo traveling and have to pay the entire cost of the taxi ride and guide on your own, the group tour is definitely more economical. So, was it worth it to go out on our own? Purely financially, yes, but in reality, that's more of a difficult question. Because if you join a group tour, they take care of purchasing your tickets, and you can even skip the line and be let into the park straight away, which in my eyes is a luxury. And in the moment, I was really regretting not biting the bullet and taking the tour. Mostly because we visited during the winter holidays and the place was packed. It took us over an hour from the time we arrived until we actually got into the archaeological site and could start visiting. But if you're visiting during the slower tourist season, things might be different.
Oh my god, we're finally in. This was the most tedious process I've ever had to go through to get into any archaeological site in the world. And we don't even have a guide because they only had Spanish guides, and nosotros son gringos, no comprendo español. So we're here just like reading these little stones on the floor.
The site itself is beautiful. They put a lot of money into the surrounding facilities, and luckily they have these little stone slabs with information about the site all along the walking path, so we could get some insights even though we didn't have access to a guide to explain everything. Tulum is an ancient Mayan site located on Mexico's Caribbean coast, known for its breathtaking views and rich history. It was one of the last cities built and inhabited by the Maya, thriving between the 13th and 15th centuries. The site is unique because it's perched on a cliff overlooking the turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea, with defensive walls surrounding the city for protection. Tulum was a port and a major trade hub, connecting the Maya with other regions and facilitating the exchange of goods like jade, obsidian, and textiles. In addition to being a trade center, Tulum was also a spiritual hub, dedicated to the god of the setting sun. Notable structures like the Temple of the Frescoes featured detailed murals of Maya gods. By the late 15th century, the city began to decline, possibly due to trade routes and early European contact. While exploring the ruins, you'll come across fauna and flora native to the area. We spotted dozens of iguanas trying to camouflage with their surroundings. You'll also see some breathtaking vistas along the way. Once upon a time, you could go down the stairs and visit the beaches right beneath the Mayan ruins, but they no longer allow visitors down there due to conservation efforts. We were visiting on a gray and rainy day, but when the weather is good and if you're feeling a little adventurous, you can take a boat out to view Tulum from the sea. Once you're done your visit, you can continue directly to the beach area or make your way to the on-site museum, which we tried to do, but that didn't exactly go to plan either.
We waited for so long to try and get a bus to go to a museum because it seems quite far away to walk there, and there was just no bus that was going there, and they just said, like, sorry, not happening, so we just decided to leave.
So we exited the park and came back to the main entrance where there are souvenir shops and restaurants to have a refreshing beverage. This entrance/exit area is very touristy. They even have a Starbucks, a Subway, and a Haagen-Dazs ice cream shop. To showcase a little bit more of the local culture, they even do a ceremony of the voladores for tips. Speaking of tips, here are some tips I wish I knew before visiting Tulum without a group tour. Number 1, get there early. Their site opens from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., the last entry being 3:30 p.m. But it starts to get a lot more crowded around midday. Number 2, if you want to get the most bang out of your buck, plan to spend the day in the Parque del Jaguar. You have to pay entry for it anyways, and it includes access to a beach, hiking trails, bike paths, and more. And number 3, as mentioned earlier, guides aren't always readily available. But we found out later that you can hire a guide ahead of time to meet you at the park through platforms like Viator, Get Your Guide, and even Airbnb. If you're in the Mayan Riviera, I definitely recommend visiting the archaeological site of Tulum. It's beautiful and full of history, but keep in mind, it's not a quaint walk in the park. It's a multi-million-dollar operation that is crowded and very touristy. Navigating the crowds can definitely cause a cortisol spike. I know it did for me. So if that's not your cup of tea, don't say I didn't warn you. An alternative you might like better would be visiting nearby Cuba, which is lesser known and it's one of the only Mayan ruins that you can still climb on. Let me know in the comments below if you've been to Tulum and have additional tips. Or if you're looking to go and have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer. Until next time, don't forget to keep exploring.